Welcome to the English Desk. This channel takes English apart and puts it back together in a way that makes sense. Short lessons, clear examples. Let's get into it.
Okay, so the keys are in the bag or on the bag. It's such a tiny choice, right? But it's one of those things that can really make you second-guess your English. But what if I told you there's one single, really simple idea that just unlocks the whole thing for good? Let's dive in.
So why is this so tricky? I mean, it really feels like you just have to memorize a million different rules, doesn't it? Let's get right to the heart of why so many of us feel that way.
You know the feeling? You're staring at a sentence and you're just stuck. Is it in the box or on the box? It can feel completely random, totally arbitrary. But here's the thing. English isn't just throwing darts at a board. There is a system. There's this hidden logic that I promise once you see it, well, it changes everything.
All right, so here it is. This is the big secret. The one core rule that's going to make this whole choice feel like second nature. It all comes down to one simple idea: enclosure versus surface.
And yeah, it's really that simple. When we use the word in, what we're really thinking about is enclosure, being surrounded by something or being inside some kind of boundary. But when we use on, we're thinking about a surface, touching it, making contact, being attached to it.
So this one fundamental idea, enclosure versus surface, that's the key that unlocks the whole thing. And trust me, once you start looking for it, you are going to see it everywhere. Let's put it to the test.
Okay, let's start with some really simple physical examples. I think this is where it's all going to really start to click for you.
All right, take this sentence. The keys are in the bag. Why in? Well, because the bag has boundaries, right? It physically surrounds the keys. The keys are enclosed. It's as simple as that. But what if the keys are on the table? See, now they're not inside the table, are they? They're resting on its surface. And there it is again, that simple contrast. Enclosed versus surface. Okay, let's try another one. The clothes are in the wardrobe. Why? Because the wardrobe encloses them. It's a container. But what if those clothes are just piled up on a chair? Well, then they're on the chair because they're on its surface. See? It's the exact same logic every time.
All right, so that all makes sense for physical objects, right? Stuff you can see and touch. But, and this is where it gets really, really cool, English uses this exact same idea for things you can't even touch. We're talking about concepts like time and even our feelings.
Yeah, you heard that right. The language is built on this mental model of enclosure versus surface, and it applies it to organize all these abstract concepts. So even when we're talking about ideas, that fundamental logic, it just doesn't change.
Just look at how this works with time. Think about it. We say in July or in 2026. Why? Because we imagine these bigger chunks of time, like a month or a year, as containers. They're enclosures. But then we say on Monday or on my birthday. We see a specific day as a single point, like a spot on the surface of a calendar. And it's the same for how we feel or our state of being. You're in trouble. It feels like you're surrounded by it, right? But a light switch is on. It's at a specific point of operation.
And this logic, it just extends everywhere you look. For example, you live in Lagos because a city has boundaries. It encloses you. But a shop is on Broad Street because we think of a street as a line, a surface. Same thing here. The answer is in the textbook. It's contained within the whole book. But a diagram is on page 10, printed on the surface of that one specific page.
So what does all of this actually mean for you? Well, it means you can finally stop guessing. You don't have to memorize lists anymore. You basically have this new mental superpower that lets you choose the right word, not because you memorized a rule, but because you actually understand the logic behind it.
So here's your new thought process. From now on, whenever you're unsure, just run through this super quick mental checklist. First, look at the relationship. Then ask yourself, is it enclosed or inside something? If yes, use in. Is it on a surface or at a specific point? Then you're going to use on. That's really the core of it. So, the big takeaway here, the most important thing to remember is that what looked like a bunch of random, frustrating rules you had to memorize, it's not. It's actually a really consistent and logical system. And it's all built on this one simple, almost elegant idea of enclosure versus surface. Once you start looking for the why, the underlying logic, instead of just trying to memorize rules, the whole English language just starts to open up in a completely new way. It kind of makes you wonder, doesn't it? What other so-called rules are out there, just waiting for us to decode their simple, hidden secret?
Thank you for watching. If you want more lessons like this, stay with the English Desk. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to our channel for more English educational sessions.